Hey guys and girls, just wanted to talk to you guys a little bit about Buzzsprout. Start a podcast today with free podcast hosting for Buzzsprout, easy podcasting software for hosting, promoting, and tracking your podcast. Buzzsprout is the best way to publish a podcast online for secure and reliable hosting to full iTunes support. Get started for free, no credit card required, cancel at any time.
Stats are for losers.
That's why we took the damn field. Now, if you want to crown them, then crown their ass.
This is what's great about sports. This is what the greatest thing about sports is.
You play to win the game.
Welcome to the Airin and I podcast. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Airing It Out podcast. As usual, it's your host, Dustin Marion. I am blessed and honored to have a really, really good friend of mine, Diane Medina. How are you doing, young lady?
I'm doing very well. How are you, Dustin?
I'm doing good. I'm just chilling.
Football is starting now, so
yeah, it is.
It's a whole new season. We're ready for pumpkin spice. We're ready for Ugg boots. What are we ready for? We're ready for basic bitches. Come on.
I feel you. I'm with all of that good shit. The only thing is like 2020 just seems to be trying to steal everything that we take. But I'm happy that it didn't steal the NFL, and I'm excited about it. I think already, if I was betting today, I think it would be up. Because I did another episode, and I'm going to try to get it going a little bit more. I was actually just chopping up some stuff for some fantasy picks, some DFS players, and some spreads. So how was you? So I always ask people this when it comes to fantasy. Who was your first pick in the draft?
So I'm in 2 leagues this season.
Okay, which is usual. I think you're under.
I am under. I am usually 3 or more. Last season I had 3. I was actually commissioner in my office pool.
Okay.
I've since been laid off, so obviously that office pool isn't happening anymore.
Facts.
So my first pick, very first draft.
What was the number?
What number were you? I was number 1 pick in my first league.
Okay, so then you had to take McCaffrey.
Yes,
Facts.
Absolutely, absolutely. In my second draft, I was 10th out of 12. And I took. Who did I take?
Wide receiver or running back?
I think it was it was a running back because this is a PPR league. So I think I took Airin because it was so far down the line.
Really?
But Airin was my first one, yeah.
Okay, all right. And then do you remember who you took in the first league, wide receiver wise? Or do you do running back? Do you have a strategy in that regard? Because I know some people will do running back, wide out. Some people will do running back, wide out, running back.
It depends. Right, it'll depend on me where my queue is, because I do. Available. Yeah, I do like to load up the queue, because at that point, like, if I have people who I've looked at, I don't have to be scrambling when I'm on like my minute and a half or whatever to look through all of the list and then decide.
No, I gotta start doing that shit more, because I'm usually like and I'm like, who is it that I want? And then
yeah, no,
I've never got.
I like loading up the queue.
Yeah, that's smart,
because it kind of gives you, okay, I would like this guy first before I get this guy. And then, of course, as the draft is going, like,
right, they start deleting.
Yeah, you're like, God damn it, you son of a bitch. But
fucking reachers. People start fucking reaching for players. So, if you could remember, who was the second pick in that McCaffrey draft?
In McCaffrey draft, oh man, who did I pick? DeAndre Hopkins.
Nasty. That might be a really sick team.
Yeah.
Do you know off the top of your head who's your QB in that league?
I got Goff.
You must have got him really cheap. So you probably loaded up on a lot of other positions.
So because I like the PPR leagues, I like to, you want to go with your running backs first, because they run the ball and they get passes. So I like to kind of do the running backs first. But if there's a fire wide receiver that hasn't been chosen, like DeAndre Hopkins was like,
that was a no-brainer.
It was a no-brainer. Yeah, absolutely.
Especially because he wants to prove everybody wrong, at least in Texan world.
Absolutely.
That was a debacle. Did you watch that terrible game?
I didn't.
Oh my God.
I didn't see that one.
I feel bad for Deshaun Watson.
No. For Monday. Yeah. I did watch the Monday game. Patrick Mahomes.
He's the real deal, huh?
He's lighting
half
it up.
a bill.
He's lighting it up.
He's unreal.
It's crazy.
I was
for him though, because he's a good dude.
He's amazing. I said right now, based on what they look like, I'm already like making crazy predictions. I'm like undefeated. There's nobody. I mean, they might battle in the division, but come on, the way they spanked that team. I mean, they were at home. I think that this is going to be a really interesting year, because I have this theory that I've come up with, and I think it's a large reason. And we'll segue to this, because this is what I wanted to ask you as one of my first topics. I think the no fans helps a lot of these shyer players, right? So it's like practice.
Yeah.
Instead of you having all these people yelling at you, I mean, you literally get yelled at as you walk into the field. Yeah. In baseball, especially, I was a kid. I didn't use profanity, but I'm literally yelling at the right fielder the whole time. Yeah, you know, for him to just tip his cap and then you shut up. But that was 7 innings of yelling. So I think that some of these dudes who have a little bit of performance anxiety are going to excel.
Maybe, but some of those stadiums are allowing fans, 25% capacity.
But my thing was a little bit more relative to baseball because baseball they're not going to let fans in at all. And I think that the Padres are really, really enjoying the success of not having fans yell at them, even though they don't yell. The fans, that is like the most passive fan base ever, in my opinion. Because
I don't really think that they have much of a fan base here because this city, and I think you said it in one of your earlier podcasts, is this city is a transient population.
That sucks.
There's very, very few people that I've met here that are actually from here, born and raised here,
Agreed.
And still live here.
Yes.
My roommate is one of those people. She's a huge exception.
She's the liver here. I found some of the livers. Yeah. Yes, it is a very rare thing to find.
Yeah. So when and the Padres tickets are fucking cheap, man.
Yeah, they are, bro. I have like the best cheat code in the whole wide world. I buy the nosebleeds and then I sit wherever I want.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm, you know me, I'm a huge Dodger fan. That's my team. Go Dodgers.
I know we're going to go into them, man.
Yeah, we're going to get into it. Yes, we are, because last night's fucking loss was horrible.
Against Houston?
Against
It was the first or the second loss? Because I've been trying to keep track. It was the first game of the...
It was the first game of the
Okay, so I was up to date. Yeah.
Yeah, so Kenley Jansen, and this goes back to the fans in the stands. Like, Kenley Jansen is used to coming out and everybody's hooting and hollering, wanting him to lock down this game.
He's like arguably like one of the best closers in the league, right?
One of the best closers ever, and he just...
He's been choking lately? Really?
He's only blown 2 saves. This was the second save that he blew yesterday. But I mean, they were winning 5-3.
Okay.
And they came back and they took the game 7-5.
See, this is the stuff that gets me nervous, right? Because I keep telling Padre fans, I'm like, the best thing that you want is for the Dodgers to win the chip, and then they're gonna go away. They keep on loading up and loading up and loading up. I think because they want that championship, right? And I think that it's hard to stay hungry once you reach the ultimate level of success, especially when you're grinding at it so hard. Yeah. I think if they win, they're going to take a year off. It's bound to happen. I don't know. And I'm not saying that they don't have the panache, but the guts to do a back-to-back, it takes a lot, right? Because after all that, I mean, shit, if Kershaw wins, he's probably going to cry and lay down and probably never want to play again.
Yeah, exactly. Why would you? Why would you?
Very
How
stressful.
many times has he been there?
It's
and
fucked up, right?
And he knows, and all he can do is just get back up, put the uniform on, and go back out there again.
So now, this is what makes me nervous about these guys. Regular season, they're loaded. They go into the playoffs. They get a little shaky. I didn't think that the Washington Nationals were that great of a team. But they played them well, right? Because if I go position by position, I think the Dodgers got a way better lineup, right? Than a lot of teams actually in the league. And their farm system is ridiculous. Like literally every year they're picking out some guy you never heard of that just came out from AA or AAA, and it's just like crush. I was actually surprised that they made the move for Mookie because they were so successful with finding guys. And yes, their Moneyball strategy is off the charts. The only thing is, I guess Moneyball doesn't work in the playoffs as well.
It doesn't pay off in LA anyway.
I'm wondering, are you starting to get nervous about Slam Diego?
No, actually, I'm excited because as a Dodger fan, even though they're in our division, because they've been in the basement for so long, like I've never really seen the Padres as a threat.
Right.
If they go all the way, I'll be super happy for them because I was going to the Padre games. I go to Padre games.
100%.
Like, I fucking love baseball. So.
Right.
You know, and again, tickets are so cheap. Like
it's
when
a nice
the Dodgers
facility.
came to town,
right.
I pay $100 to sit behind Dodgers dugout.
Wow, that's crazy. I didn't even know.
Tickets like that in LA, that's $600 that I'm paying.
Yes,
for one
agreed.
seat.
New York City, Boston, any of that stuff.
Yeah.
They get for such a nice facility, and for the teams that come in. Maybe that's why it's so hard to get the fan base in there because you have the out of towners buying all the best seatage, and then maybe driving up the secondary market on some of that stuff. And maybe not want you to go.
I mean, you look in the stands at a Padres game when they're at Petco. It's at least 75% Dodgers. It is.
I'm being serious.
I'm high-fiving people walking through the hall, and it's amazing. But yeah, and it's the same like when the Red Sox came to town.
The Yankees come to town. The Mets come to town.
If the Angels do an exhibition game here, like
the Mets.
Yeah,
it's almost like
crazy.
the Padres have become like an exhibition, a stadium where the other teams come to showcase and kind of give the other, the people that live here, the transplants like myself and yourself, an opportunity to see other teams at a much cheaper margin
that they wouldn't have been able to otherwise.
I've gotten some killer seats too, man. Absolutely. I mean, I think I was able to see a couple of the games of the World Classic, and it wasn't even for what I got. I got like the whole package of the All-Star game and all the games to that, and it was barely a fraction of pricing.
So the one thing I'm very upset about that 2020 has taken away from me was that the All-Star game was supposed to be in LA this year. And I wanted to go to that home run derby so bad in July. And I was waiting. And then when they called off baseball, and I was just like,
I know, it's unreal. I almost, to kind of crisscross real quick, I'm kind of shocked they even allowed fans into the football games. It's really sad that they weren't even able to, like, I don't know if they signed the deal that was like official.
Could be a players union deal.
Right? And then it's like, listen, we're not even fucking around with this. Yeah. But these guys, now they play with at least... From what I have an insider who works in the tickets game, and he was telling me I think it's only 5 teams right now that got fans. Yeah, that were allowed because it's like a state to state thing. Okay. And I think he said the next one is going to be a Monday night game, and I think it's Browns Dolphins. I'm not 100% sure. I know he said the Browns got. I think the Dolphins and the Jags got okayed. The Browns got okay. I maybe think Indianapolis is on that list, but I'm not 100% sure. But it doesn't seem like there's going to be that many fans, and it sucks because I really wanted to go see. I was thinking about going to LA for that All-Star weekend. I mean, it's right here. Why not, right? And I've never been to the stadium. I wanted to go. That's great. And I was like, this is going to be awesome.
They just did new renovations too that they haven't been able to showcase this season because nobody's there.
Yeah. But, so speaking about that, were you, besides losing the opportunity to watch your team, but besides losing the opportunity to watch the All-Star game and getting laid off of work, what else has affected you by 2020 in the sense like earlier in the year? Let me clean up that question. So earlier in the year, right? Let's start with that. Did you believe, or you thought it was like not real? As the speed of the news started to build momentum. Were you fast to act, or you were kind of like some of the other folks saying it was not as big as the flu?
No, I want to go back even before that.
Okay, that's good.
In January of 2020, as you know, I turned 40 years old.
Yes, we were there. That was a great party. Thank you so much for coming.
We started off the year.
For inviting me, I meant.
With just an awesome big ass party, and that like made my year. Like I had the best. My family was in town for like 5 days. We had a beach house. Like things were great, and I was just riding high off of that. I got sick immediately after the party. The week after the party, I got acute bronchitis, and was down for a few days. But
was that a self-diagnosis, or you went to the doctor?
No, I actually went to urgent care. I actually went to urgent care because a friend of mine that went to the party, she turned 30 the day after I turned 40, and she was like, "Hey, I'm having a bunch of people. We got a beach house, come this weekend." But I got sick, and I like took a picture of my diagnosis and text. I was like, "I'm sorry, I can't hang out with you this weekend." She was like, "Oh, it's such a bummer." So, I mean, just that the very first part of the year, amazing, and I thought 2020 is gonna be it. 2020 is gonna be lit, right? So when the shit started coming down, I think it was, I was in court in LA March 13th when Trump went and gave like one of the first.
When he said it was going to just disappear?
No.
That?
I think it was a little bit before that. Okay. And he was like, I think Dr. Birx and Dr. Fauci, all his medical team was there with him the first press conference. And I was actually from LA, I went back home up to Bakersfield because I was staying there for the weekend to hang out with my family. And I was just watching the press conference, and I was like, what is going on? Like, what is this? Like, what is happening? If he's coming out and he's talking about this, like, it's a big thing. And I had been heard a few things about Wuhan and all this stuff in the weeks leading up to it, but I wasn't really paying attention. It wasn't really, like, I never get a flu shot. I don't really believe in that stuff. I'm not an anti-vaxxer by any means, but
I know as soon as you say that shit, they start jumping all over you.
Yeah, they start jumping all over you. But like, no. Like,
I've never taken a flu shot in my life.
Get your vaccines, but I'm not gonna take a flu shot. I think it's weird to actually infect myself with something like that right now. Like,
I agree.
especially when it's not going to work.
Right.
I'll take my chances. I'm fine.
I know. I mean, I can spew all types of shit with this vaccine nonsense, but we'll hold it. Go ahead. So tell me.
So when it first, came out, and then I came home that weekend, or a little bit later, I think shit was happening at my office because a pipe burst in a couple floors above ours. Mm-hmm. So we were already kind of working from home already on like a voluntary basis because we had all these huge fans that were in the hallways, and
this is a nightmare.
We had a lot of water damage on our ceiling tiles and in the walls. And it smelled musty.
Man.
So I was working home pretty much
already,
kind of like coming in and out. And then we had, I had conferences and stuff like that. But when the order came down from the governor and our law firm said, okay, you guys need to start working from home. We're going to start working from home from now on. Then I was like, this is probably a little more serious than
people are letting on, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Like this is literally stopping life as we know it. And I think that's weird.
Was that, if you could recall, was that early March, mid-March?
That was like mid-March. It was about mid-March.
Because I think it started to really, really catch fire, like the teen. Because I started recording, and again, to piggyback some of your stuff, I was riding high too. I was like, this is great. Everything's great.
Yeah.
My podcast, a dream that I've been trying to do for a long time, is starting to go off. And then I had literally like interviews during all of it, which was weird.
Right.
And I was like in between one, and I was waiting for another guest, and it's like, Tabitha's like, yo, they're doing this, they're doing that. Yeah. And then I literally was like in Costco the day before the mad rush.
Oh, the toilet paper shortage, which is ridiculous.
We'll get to that in a second. I didn't know. My friend's like, dude, there's no this, there's no that. And at that time, it really hadn't catched anything. And I should have had my radar a little bit higher. Yeah. But Tabitha kept telling me it's not a big deal, not a big deal, not a big deal. Because right at the gate, I believed. I was watching it already in December.
I think I did
and
too.
I was keeping an eye on it. And I was like, man, these people, this is not good. And I felt because we're West, they're going to be traveling here.
Right.
And I've watched enough films. Not saying that makes me as a
disaster movies.
Yeah.
Everybody ignores the scientists.
Yes. And I was like, this sounds fucking strange, man. And I was like, I couldn't really do much, but I didn't think about stocking up. But we were already stocking up normally, right? Because that's how we have a big family. And so we kind of think the only thing that we got the toilet paper, but if I would have known, I would have got more. Not because I was trying to hoard anything, but at one point there wasn't any.
Right.
And so I was just like, okay, sure, guys. I mean, but every paper product you could think of, whether it was Clorox wipes, whether it was napkins, whether it was, paper towels, everything was just flying. But it was very strange. I don't know why people were so concerned about, using the facilities of all things, right? I would have thought there should have been like a run out on water. There should have been a run out, which there was.
Well, there was for a while,
yeah. But it was very apocalyptic.
Yes.
Because I think when I was saying that news that it was in between two interviews, I was like, Tab, let's just go to the store just in case. Like we have stuff, but let's get whatever. And I was just surprised people weren't beating each other up in the things. But there was nothing on the shelves, and it was getting eerie. Like I went to the frozen food section, empty. Water section, empty. Canned goods, goodbye.
The first time, I think maybe it was like a week or two later, sometime in April, when I drove back to Bakersfield to hang out with the family, and it literally took me less than 3 hours to get there because there was nobody on the road.
I know a lot of people were digging that shit.
That was awesome. It was amazing.
They said tickets went up because people were just like fucking blowing it all the time during COVID.
Sure.
Yeah, why wouldn't you?
Why not?
Yeah.
Let's see what this Tesla can do.
I know, right? You could never open up your vehicle, but it's like now I can open it up. I'm ready to go. So are you actually, I know the answer to this question, so I'm going to change it. You're a pretty social person, right?
Yeah.
Right, you like going to the bar and stuff like that?
Sure.
When the lockdown happened, were you itching to be outside, be around people?
I was
really? Okay.
I was like a caged lion.
Really? Yeah. See, I know, because you're very outgoing.
Yeah, and I it's funny, like I was an occasional smoker. Like I used to smoke pretty regularly. I quit when I was like 29. I quit for like 5 years, and then it would just be like, casual thing. If I'm going out to the bars, maybe I'll smoke.
It helps. It helps with the liquor. I don't know why. It works good.
It's a social
100%.
Habit.
Yes.
And so when my roommate and I, when it was it's just us, and then she shares custody of her son, so he would be he would be coming over every now and then, but we were literally like trafficking in cigarettes and hiding from the kid to smoke them because we were just so like amped up, like all this fucking nervous energy, and we don't know what to do with it because we're stuck here. And it was definitely me as being a social creature. Yeah, it definitely affected me, I think.
It's weird because I've been like, I mean, I'm kind of a little bitish now, but I've been tailing back. I kind of, a long time of my life, I've been the stoner life. So staying home and never leaving and playing games, even though I'm super social, but I feel like that valve gets exhausted because I'm a bartender.
Absolutely.
So
yeah, of course.
Doing it, I'm like, I don't want to see another motherfucker or talk to another motherfucker. But it was weird because I can do both. And I wasn't itching. Tabitha was losing her fucking mind.
Yeah.
I was fine. I was like, this is great. I'm going to watch all the fucking TV. I'm going to smoke all the weed. I'm going to play video games. And so my hands crimple up.
Yeah.
So I didn't have, but I know a lot of people were losing their shit. It was very, 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 it was a great social experience. And I don't mean the corona, but just realizing how much we need one another.
Yeah.
And even if you shut it off, it's like, no, that's not how it goes. We need to be around people.
So in keeping with that whole social aspect of it, in my law firm, I mean, I don't think there really was anybody that I worked with that I didn't like. And I think it's funny if I look back on like that party that we had in January, if I look back at how I met a lot of those people that came, I worked with so many of them at some point in my life, and we've maintained contact. Like, that's just how I am. Like, again, social, You're
a lot like me, social butterfly. You stick us in a room somewhere, we're gonna meet people, we're gonna get to know people.
If I get burned out, like I just need to be by myself. I have value. I enjoy my alone time.
Right. But not 8 months of it.
Well, so every other Thursday I had a trivia team, and we go to Mike Hess in North Park.
Nice.
And we would, hang out, drink, answer some fucking questions.
That's dope.
Yeah. So when this shit went down, we were like, what are we gonna do? So then what we started doing is we started Zooming, and we bought that Jackbox TV. So it was like every Thursday. Now we're doing something.
Tell me about this. See, I don't know. See, I'm not plugged in. What's this Jackbox TV?
Jackbox.tv was like, it's like this software program that's essentially like trivia. So there's different packages that you can buy and like different types of games. So like one game is
like history trivia, right? Movie trivia, right? What's the one that you?
One game was called Guesstimate. So it was like you had to guess when it was your turn. You had to guess what the percentage of people was, like how many people unpack their suitcase when they go on vacation and put all their clothes in the, like, what do you think?
I feel like I have a better chance at that game than some of the other harder questions.
Than like a random trivia? Yeah, because you can just like decide what the percentage was, and then everybody else gets to decide, okay, is it going to be higher or lower than what you said? And then whoever's right, they'll get points from that.
Oh, that sounds super fun. So that's just one
game. It is fun.
Yes.
And then there's another game where it's like, okay, it's called it's some sort of like phrase game where you have to think of a name for something. I don't know. It's really. I'll have to show it to you. Like, it's amazing. I get it. It's so fun.
Let me ask you: it's not an online game, right? Like
No, it is. It is.
So everybody kept the Zoom just to see each other's face, and then everybody could sign in under the game portal that you create, type of thing.
So the Zoom is for everyone to see each other, but also whoever was hosting the game, it was either myself or my friend Monica, and essentially we would share our screen with everybody in Zoom so they could see the questions.
Nice.
And then on their phone they put in their answers.
Nice. Look at you
so the interface is like, it was really cool. It was really awesome.
And that was another thing too. It's so funny, right? As we have evolved to the phone, COVID changed things a little bit, because it kind of de-evolved us a little bit more too, because you could only do so many things on the phone. You needed to set up the home office. I feel like a lot of people got super savvy with the video and audio shit that you had to come up with, right?
Because Zoom company went from like $6 a share.
I can't believe I missed that.
$300 and something a share.
I bought 3 shares. I was pissed off because I had some money locked in somewhere, and the market's been just dog shit lately. So I'm just I'm gonna wait. But Zoom's been great. I mean, who would have thought? I can't believe I didn't jump on that bandwagon. I kind of know now. Their security shit made me nervous. Yeah. Because I was like, man, I don't know, if that company's going to be able to excel with having that monkey on their back. And then my daughter did a Zoom conference mid-season of the school season, and someone hacked her account.
Oh wow!
Right, and thank God it was nothing too crazy.
Right,
but I forget what they like. They like name bombed or something, like put like you're bad or this show's over or something silly like that. But they could have escalated it to a whole nother thing. And I'm glad that the kids didn't get thing. But so that's what I thought. I said, okay, I don't think that this company is going to have as much value, especially when there's so many other platforms. But I was wrong. And I don't like the audio on it. I think it's not as clean as it could be. But a lot of the people that I've spoken with, they use it and they clean it up and they use it for their podcasting and stuff like that. It's still innovative. I'm surprised Skype let them come in the building.
Yeah, that was
right?
Another thing. Yeah, the Skype thing, they were sitting on a gold mine.
Who would have knew? Who would have knew?
Did they just stop developing that product or what?
I think they didn't even think. I remember the first time I seen a video conference, it had to be like late 90s. And I was like, wow, this is so fucking cool. Right?
You know what it was? It was Back to the Future Part 2.
Right.
There was the video call.
No, but I remember that was fuck. Back to the Future 2 is great. Because we're getting so many things there. Leave it to Elon Musk to maybe make us flying machines.
I'm still waiting on that hoverboard, goddammit.
Seriously. No, but I seen like like an interview on a talk show and they were using it, but it was terrible. It was very grainy. They moved very choppy. And so I'm like, damn, I remember at that specific moment, I'm like, man, if you jump on this and perfect it, you got to be, like you said, sitting on a gold mine. I can't believe Skype just forgot about it. But this is another thing that I thought too, because for my remote interviews, I use FaceTime. Because FaceTime, the audio quality is amazing. It almost sounds like you're kind of talking to that person.
Well, because it's literally the phone.
Right, so. I get that. But if I put Zoom on my phone, there's noise.
See, I've never used Zoom on my phone.
I've used Zoom on my phone. I've used Skype on my phone, and they're not 100. It kind of gives it still that muffle. And when you're kind of doing the editing, it's really, really hard to remove that telephone
Isolate
sign.
The audio.
and the frequency that you got to do, because you got to be. It's a lot of stuff, because now I have to have that only person on one frequency, and then I got to play with that frequency for that one person. If I get screwed and I have two people, it just happened to me the other day. I had two guys on one line. And he was crackling. I couldn't do nothing. I mean, I tried my best. I want to get them back on. It's some really cool guys. But I'm surprised no one else jumped on this thing. I'm surprised no one else ran into it. I was like, damn, with FaceTime, Apple was been crushing shit. Like they did stuff, they mastered it, and they were like, okay, on to the next. And it's weird that Zoom just came out of nowhere. And they were trading just recently at almost $500 a share.
Yeah.
The market pulled them back. They're back to like 380.
Yeah, they're down to 300 something.
I think it's a buy. I totally think it's a buy, man. The whole entire nation's school system is being done on Zoom. Isn't that nuts?
And your server is literally whatever you're piping it into.
Is that nuts?
It's crazy. But that's the reason why it took a shit the first day of schools. Just a couple weeks ago?
Yeah,
right?
well,
because everybody was on it.
They were supposed to be like turning down the wattage for the Wi-Fi, right? Because I was surprised we haven't broke the internet.
Literally.
Because when you have shit like 40 million people getting on at one time, golly,
that's a lot of bandwidth.
I'll tip my cap to most of these providers. They handled it well for not having as many bad things. Your Wi-Fi is probably, the signal is not as strong from the hours of 10 to 4. But the fact that we didn't break it, because Joe Rogan had me nervous. Like, I was listening to a couple of his shows, and he's like, bro, if the net goes down, we're fucked.
Oh, was he doom and gloom panic button? Oh, no.
Well, he was a little bit. He was informative, but he was just letting people know, like, you guys are freaking out. You're kind of, he was saying it in a kind of tough way where it's like, you got to chill out, because it could get really worse. Because if you lose the net, then you're really fucked.
Yeah.
And then we're going to go really back. Like, I bought board games. Okay, when was the last time you played a fucking board game?
We played board games, during lockdown. We had Sequence.
Right.
We taught little man how to play poker.
Right.
We taught him how to play dominoes.
Damn.
We were taking it back.
Oh, you got lucky, because how old is homeboy?
He's 11. He'll be 12 in October.
All right. We have 3, 5, and 7, right?
Woo.
And 3, 5, and 7.
Hungry hippos. Here we go.
They didn't even know how to do that. I thought Sorry was an easy game. No, I thought
Trouble. Where you pop it in the middle.
Yeah, but Sorry's the same thing. It got the popper too. That shit didn't even work. I had to teach them how to count, where to count from. They kept losing count. They didn't understand counterclockwise or clockwise.
Oh, that's funny.
It was a meltdown. I should have recorded some of that shit, because I was like, man, I feel like we got board games easier when we were kids.
Yeah.
but they're already so disconnected because
they're in front of a screen all day long.
right? Yeah. They got a lot. They're different. I mean, I remember being excited to play Go Fish. If I told those guys, I mean, maybe now they would be excited about it, but if I told a random kid, let's play Go Fish, they'll look at me like, listen, bro, I'm on my tablet right now, okay? And I'm about to kill it in this game. So please, I'm on Roblox. Leave me alone.
Yeah, you're like, wait, I'm going fishing at Animal Crossing. Get out of here.
So, I mean, wow. What a quick change in such a short amount of time.
Definitely.
And to conduct business via video is very interesting. How do you let's segue to that really quick. Or not really quick. Let's segue into that because that's going to be not a bulk of my stuff, but I got the firm in the building, so I want to ask some legal questions.
Sure.
So with that, was it easier because you could probably get more people on at the same time and see clients? I mean, for multitasking, I feel like the video might work better. What do you think?
So I think it depends on your type of legal practice. For me, because I work in the craft beverages space, most of my contacts with my clients are via email. So if I needed, if we needed a conference or whatever, it's usually just phone calls. Like I never really had a whole lot of FaceTime with a lot of these guys. Now that I'm kind of doing my own thing and took some clients with me, my plan is next week to visit all of my Southern California client premises, whether it's a brewery or a distillery or a cidery, to get that FaceTime with them, to actually get to know them. Because I feel like now that I don't have the firm, that personal attention, I feel like goes a long way.
100%.
So, I want to go to my client's premises, check out their
feel for the whole deal,
get some swag from them so I can represent them outside, their premises, buy their products, whether, I've got a distillery up in Long Beach that I'm really excited to go to, and they're doing all sorts of cool stuff.
Are you able to say their name, or is that on the lock and key?
We'll tell you what, you can edit it out if it's a problem, right? So what I'll probably do is just ask my clients later if
okay,
it's cool.
No problem. Sounds
but
cool.
It's Portuguese Bend Distilling.
And what are they?
In
What?
Long Beach.
Okay, and because Long Beach sounds cool, so that's why the only reason why I asked. Are they do they do spirits, and what spirits do they do?
Yeah, they do a gin. I know they've got a vodka, a rum, and I think that's it. Because any whiskeys or anything, you gotta barrel age that for a long time.
Okay, so those are quicker. See, I don't know. This is good that you know a little bit about this. That we can double dutch a little bit. So it's a shorter shelf process with the white spirits versus whiskey that you got to go put in a barrel to get the smoke and the age and the robust flavors.
Mm-hmm.
That makes sense.
Absolutely. So, but yeah, they've been open for about not quite a year, and I know that they have a kitchen as well. So they have a tasting room, they have a kitchen, and then they have the full bar. And yeah, I'm really excited to get up there.
I can't wait to hear more about it because I'm curious to know if they only. I mean, it makes sense that they would only, but if they only carry their shit, right? So like, you could only get a rum and coke, a gin and tonic, and a vodka soda in their building.
So with the restaurant, it's gonna depend on their licensing, their alcohol licensing.
Right, 100%.
But the alcohol licensing, they need a Type 6, which is the still. They need the Type 74, which is the craft distiller's license. It allows them to actually manufacture on site.
Okay.
And the reason that it's craft is because it's a certain amount of gallons that they produce a year. So as long as they're underneath I think it's like 100,000 gallons.
Damn, that sounds like a lot still.
It sounds like a lot.
Right?
It really does.
I'd be so blacked out if I even tried to drink 100,000.
But along with that, with those licensees, when they open up the restaurant, that also allows them to sell other beer and wine on site. So they're going to push their cocktails, obviously.
Right.
But if they have that restaurant there, then they're able to sell, beef eaters or
Right. Maybe
Cheetos or whatever. If they want to.
Correct. That's kind of cool. I've always thought, I didn't know, but I was privy to the laws changing because I feel like the laws changed, and I say just changed, but it looks like Joe Burrow just scored his first touchdown, and it was a quarterback sneak. That they just changed their rules for distilling and brewing, especially the liquor change was like only it's fairly new. It's only like 10, 11, 12 years that they let like average Joes I don't know how much you know about the law on that front. Like when did they open it? Because I knew as soon as that happened, then the Tito's of the world started to come to fruition, and some of these other local distilleries, and I say local that are nationally local. But that's cool. I think that's really important. It's really a shame now with COVID that it's going to push people away from what you're saying, right? Where they're not going to be doing the face-to-face, and everybody's going to be kind of weary to kind of do it. And I think it's definitely important when you're a business owner, and I don't know, especially if you're trying to represent people that you're in contact with them.
So before I got into the craft beverage legal field, I was a DUI defense attorney for a really long time. That's probably the bulk of my practice for the last 12 years. So that I would imagine that practice now, and I'm also kind of getting back into it as well because I'm on my own now, and
you got to take whatever they're
throwing,
right?
Absolutely, and I still have a pretty fair, extensive experience and a lot of expertise in that kind of stuff. So I certainly won't turn a case away, but that would probably be more affected by the inability to actually connect with the client. Although still, the one DUI client that I picked up since I've left the firm, she's a friend of mine from high school. So I've had one face-to-face meeting with her. But for the most part, everything we do is through email. And so my client management program, it's an interface called My Case.
Okay.
And essentially what that does, and I have all of my clients on it, whether it's DUI or a brewery or whoever, I have their information connected in here, and they can upload documents. I can upload documents. So it's kind of like
that's kind of cool.
Reservoir.
That's kind of cool where it makes it easier.
It's almost like a Facebook for me and my client, So we share stuff, and we can, they can see court dates, and they can see deadlines, and they can see, if we have an office conference, we put it on the calendar. It's a shared calendar. It'll automatically integrate into whatever calendaring system that they have. So it's a really great full function. I can accept payments through the portal on there. So
that's pretty awesome.
It's very comprehensive.
I feel like now talking to you were COVID ready, right?
Yeah, no,
you were dealing all the emails. You were already home pre to it. So your business is not really relied on the face-to-face or even the human contact kind of thing.
The only thing that is different now that the face-to-face that I was used to was all these beer conferences that I would go to where we would be able to, drink together and there would be
and you could
different
see other people and maybe socialize with them and try to build new clients and stuff like that, right?
That's the networking portion of it.
Right. I remember, Southern and some of the other big corporations, they throw those big balls. And it's huge networking. You're meeting guys and this or gals and sharing information.
Even the Brewers Guild here.
Yeah, I heard that was awesome too. They give the awards and they do all that. Now that's not. Have you heard anything because you kind of tapped into that world of any of that stuff coming, or is it all pushed back to 2021?
Most of it's pushed back to 2021. The big Great American Beer Festival was held over.
The same thing that they did with the Comic-Con, right? Like a video version of it.
Video version of it, the awards ceremony, things like that. But it's
it's not the same.
It's not the same.
No.
It's not the same. And then you can see on like Facebook there's ads for virtual beer festival, and they'll deliver you the beers like a couple of days before.
Dang, and then you watch the video, whatever, and you walk it through. I guess.
I don't know. I don't think that's the one that I did hear about where they were like, they were like, oh, you're gonna get these beers, but it was like Stella and the big beers, big beer brands.
Right.
And it's like
we've had that already.
Yeah, I can just go to fucking 7-Eleven and get that. I don't need to.
Right. No. And then you just turned 40. I'm about to turn 40, so we've been around the block. I think we've had our share of Heineken and Corona and the Buds and the Coors and the Stellas of the world. I want to try something I've never tried.
Exactly.
And what these brewers have been able to do is absolutely phenomenal. Oh
my God, yeah.
And I'll name drop this just because it's a thing, but like when you go to Ballast Point and they'll serve you a Thai chili wheat, and it's like fruity and like
spicy,
refreshing and a little bit of cinnamon, and then it's spicy. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
That's way different than anything I've ever tried before, and it's so cool. I mean, there's a lot of. It's almost like Baskin Robbins of beer.
Yeah.
And everybody's kind of has their own flavors and their own styles.
I mean, it's It's
you want another
definitely
one?
an acquired taste. No, I'm still working on it.
Damn, you're slow rolling it. Okay, cool.
I'm slow rolling.
I know. I want to make sure you were talking shit like it was supposed to be strong as shit, and
It's
then
not
like
strong. And
no,
I
fuck
don't
no, that
like
shit is like
it's
water.
Too sweet. It's too sweet. I'm a bitter girl. Like you know me. I
You're
like my
G&T?
hazy
You like
IPAs.
you like G&Ts? Yeah, okay. Just want to make sure because like
I'm not
right.
a big gin girl.
Yeah, I know. It's the same way I feel like, and I didn't want to interrupt you, but the same way that IPA has been the craze, I feel like gin is making a comeback like a motherfucker.
I think
and
you're right.
a lot of people are doing it. I'm with you. I
right.
can't fuck with the gin.
Gin's. I don't know. It's a little too.
It's too botanical.
Maybe that's what it is.
It's 100% is what it is. I swear to God.
It's too botanical.
Yeah, because it has like it's fruity and earthy, which is something you don't really taste, right? It's either sharp and cutty like a vodka, or sweet and round like a rum or whiskey.
Yeah.
Gin doesn't fit in any of those profiles. I feel like Hendrix, which is one of my wife's favorite, is a good one only because it's more floral than botanical, right?
Okay.
Because it's a cucumber infused. So instead of it having kind of like that perfume that you have on the back of your tongue, it's cucumber. Fucking genius. Like, I can't drink gin, and then I'll have somebody they'll be like, yo, try this cocktail with Hendrix. I'm like, pow, this shit is amazing. So
Nice.
phenomenal. But you always know it's gin. It always has that little bystander.
aftertaste, yeah.
I can't. So
Can't really get down with it.
we were saying about all of these different breweries and how they've changed the model and how they've just made things really, really, really interesting to enjoy.
And I think and it's a lot of it. I mean, breweries. A lot of times, there's kind of there's two different schools of thought. There's one where it's like, all right, we're gonna chase the trend, and we're gonna come out with all these hazy IPAs. We're gonna come out with all these other IPAs. Because that's what people want, and now
double IPA and your sister's IPA, and your cousin's IPA,
and don't get me wrong, like you, I am a big fan of the marijuana and have been since I was 15 years old. So all of those beers, to me, it tastes like I'm drinking weed.
Isn't that weird? I agree with you. It's
because
funny
the
that
hop is very
like
closely related
Got
to the marijuana plant. So, and they're weeds. That's what they
Right,
are. They are
yeah.
weeds.
That's true. I didn't think about that. See, I like when I get smart people on my show.
That's why they grow so
Science.
Exactly. Yeah, bitch. I just rewatched Breaking Bad, so I'm like,
Oh my God. Yeah, I know that fucker. I should go back at it. I can't. I just can't because I hate that woman. His wife. I just want to strangle her so bad.
You know what? When I watched it, I just did the rewatch recently, and I was like, I remember her being a lot more annoying to me, but maybe it's just my old age now. Like I just don't give a shit.
You were sympathetic to her view.
Maybe
Right.
that's what it was.
That's totally what it is.
But
I was just
I
telling
couldn't
somebody,
stand her the first time I was watching either.
I just told somebody that me as a watcher, and maybe we're in that same fold, I need to identify with characters. And maybe that first time, I'm not a woman, so there's no way I could identify with her.
Sure.
And then when she was jerk, I could identify with that a lot. So I was like, I hate you. And I'm using jerk instead of another word. But maybe this time around, because you've seen men's bullshit, it kind of was like a little bit of a softer understanding to it. You know what I mean? Because you've been around the block. When did you watch it the first time? Were you
when it was no
right when it was popular?
I take that back. I think I binged like the first 3 seasons and then jumped in season 4. When it was still doing its first run.
Yeah.
Yeah, when it was actually still airing.
Right. So that's actually, I mean, a while ago if you think about it.
Yeah, I think it came out in 2008.
Right.
And
So
it was
you've grown. You've done a lot of growing.
2012 when I was watching it on TV.
Right.
So
you've done a lot of growing since then. And you've dealt with, I'm sure, a lot of men's bullshit. So it's almost like, have you seen Zoark?
Ozark?
Oh, sorry. There you go.
Ozark.
Thank you.
Yes.
So
yes.
her character is very similar.
Yeah. And how she grows. Yes.
But I can't stand her either, but it's very similar to that whole vein of, the misses
this is what you evil men do to us.
Listen, I will agree with that statement 100%. Some of y'all are already evil to begin with. We just expose it more.
Bring it out of us. You bring it out of us.
But there are some that are sweethearts that we actually ruin. So I can sympathize with that statement a lot.
Absolutely.
So I wanted to say, hopefully we I know I cut you off by accident. I didn't mean to do that. I kind of like how you stood like in the booze family. Like you were representing the people that caught with the booze. And then you're like, you know what?
Yeah.
Maybe, I mean, I'm sure business was doing well for you to segue because there is no body driving. It's like, well, you know what? Now I'm going to represent the motherfuckers who make it because liquor went up 600% during COVID.
Yeah.
Sales did.
Yeah.
So Good, very smart on you to stay with the swivel.
When I was in college, I really wanted to be a defense attorney. Like that was like my goal was to be
this is perfect because this is actually the next questions that I had for you.
Awesome.
Yeah,
so,
I wanted to find out why you wanted to go to law or what made you interested.
Oh, well, then that goes back
Right,
further.
let's go with that,
here.
and then we'll circle back around.
Okay. So in college, I was a criminal justice major at first because I was really interested in criminal defense. Like, I don't know, I aligned with the underdog all the time. I felt like, I'm a patriot. I believe in the American system. I believe that you're innocent until proven guilty. And I really wanted to help people that, when the government is coming down on them, like I wanted to make sure that they were protected and that their rights are being preserved. So in that vein, that's where my studies went. And then when I got to law school, I was still kind of on that path and started taking a really big interest in intellectual property. So like copyrights and trademarks.
Yeah, I had a good friend of mine who was a patent lawyer, and I heard that those dudes clean up if you get the right clients.
Patent lawyers, you have to have a science background though if you want to practice patent law.
Wow, so he must be smarter than I gave him credit for.
Yeah, so he probably has
He's
a
a
4-year
genius.
degree in some sort of science.
Damn.
He's got a BS for sure.
Okay.
I just have a BA.
Okay.
But I ended up, because my criminal justice classes were so fucking easy, I ended up changing my major midway through to political science because it was a little more challenging. It was a little more statistical type stuff. Like it challenged me a little bit more because I'm not a math brain by any means. Like I can write you an essay about a math problem, no problem. But I mean, to actually like work with numbers, like it's not really.
I think that's everybody. I mean, it's hard in the sense like you could get bored of math quickly.
I don't know. I think if you have a pretty strong math brain,
For sure. I mean,
especially kids nowadays, they
gravitate to
they'll
it.
go into coding and they'll make it.
Well, I think this is something about numbers that don't lie, right? So that's
Maybe
why,
that's it, yeah.
you know what I mean? Like everything else is left to interpretation. There is no interpretation of 1 + 1 = 2.
Yeah, I don't think things are always black and white. So,
Right.
Yeah.
And math totally is black and white.
Right.
100%.
Right.
Yeah. See,
Right.
look, we're finding out
Shades
so
of
much
gray.
about you. We're pouring back all of these leaves on the artichoke. Let's go.
Man. So then I ended up taking a lot of the copyright trademark focused classes. But when I went back home after taking the bar, I mean, really, like I got a job at Legal Aid, and then it was mostly like family law stuff. And I realized I don't want to fucking do this. Like it's emotional. Like it's
for sure.
It's too emotional.
I could agree.
There's no winners in family law.
Correct.
You leave with half your shit, half your money, see your kids half the time. Like, who's a winner in that? Nobody.
By the way, whoever...
And the biggest loser are the kids. So...
100%. 100%. It's such a crazy thing to even try to get into.
It just wasn't... And, like, I knew so many different family law attorneys that were just monsters and just didn't give a shit about the family. And I was like, I don't want to fucking hang out with these people. I don't want to be one of these people. This is not what I want to do. So... I put in my 2 weeks notice at the firm I was at. My mom said, don't do it. You don't have a job yet. And I was like, fuck it. I'm just going to Hail Mary. Here we go.
So I like you.
And so when I did that,
so I got to do it.
When I did that and I went into, there was an arraignment that my boss had me cover for him. So I go into the arraignment court. I'm getting the discovery documents. I'm getting the police report and stuff. And the clerk just happens to go, oh, you work for so-and-so. And I go, oh, not for long. And she goes, oh, where are you going to next? And I was like, I don't know. We're going to find out. And at the time, my new boss to be was sitting in there and watching this exchange happen. And she goes, well, I heard a lot of good things about you. So he's probably really sad that you're leaving him. And I was like, oh, well, we'll see. It happens. I don't know what's going to happen.
I'm glad you downplayed it because a lot of people will be like, that's terrible. And these people are terrible and terrible.
No,
and terrible.
This guy was a fucking asshole.
No, I get it. But that was mighty classy of you to keep it. I know, but other people wouldn't go in that direction. So you should give yourself a little bit of credit because I behave in the same manner. I don't think it doesn't make you look.
It doesn't do anything for your karma.
Not only that, I think it makes you look weak, right? Because you don't have the gall to just be like, well, things are not working out, and blah, blah, blah. Because that's business, right? Not everything goes the way it's supposed to go.
Yeah.
You don't want to trash everybody that you can't work well with. It's not. It's just not a great marriage. That doesn't mean, again, to play on what you were saying earlier, you can't separate.
Yeah. So, he was sitting there like getting his cases, and he looked over at me and he goes, "So you don't know what you're gonna do?" And I go, "No." And he hands me his business card and he's like, "I've heard a lot of really good things about you too. Give me a call." And I was like, "Okay."
That's
and
nice.
I knew that he did practice a little bit of family law, but he also had a pretty successful DUI practice. Like he was like the go-to DUI guy
Really?
in Bakersfield. So
Wow.
I was like, I called him the next week because I came down here because I still had a lot of contacts down here. I went to law school here in San Diego. So I
did you
came
go?
down here, Thomas Jefferson.
Okay.
It's a piece of shit school now, but
It used to be good once upon a day.
it
Okay.
was.
I
Back
thought
when
you
it
were
was
going
an
to say
old
state.
town.
I was like, I didn't know
Oh,
state
no,
had
no, no.
a law program.
No,
well,
it's a private school here.
right. Okay.
But so yeah, so I ended up taking a week off and trying to figure out what the fuck I want to do. So called this guy, set up a meeting, came in, and he basically like laid it out. He's like, "Look, this is what I do. I don't condone drunk driving. That's not what I'm here for. But I do think that drunk driving laws are impinging on our constitutional rights, and they're really kind of carving the way for other crimes to not be held to the same standard. So when you get pulled over,
Okay, boom. This is what I
when
like.
you
This
get
is
pulled over-
juicy. Let's do this. You just say,
And-
talk to my lawyer, fucker. Don't beat me.
when you get pulled over and you have been drinking,
Uh-huh.
the first thing they ask you, where are you going? Where are you coming from? Blah, blah, blah. You don't have to answer any of those questions. You can say, "Officer, here's my license. I don't know why you pulled me over. I don't want to answer any of your questions." They're probably going to arrest you, but you're not giving them any additional information for them to be able to use against you later. But what's weird is that all of those questions, and then when they pull you out of the car and they ask you, "How much have you had to drink? When did you take your last drink? What did you eat? When was the last time you ate? When was the last time you slept? How many hours did you sleep?" They go through, I can show you a whole list of questions that they go through.
Oh, I totally want to have you back on so we could go through this.
So what the Supreme Court in California has said is that all those questions, even though all of the answers to those questions can lead to essentially like evidence of guilt, they don't have to Mirandize you. They don't have to say you have the right to remain silent, you have the right to an attorney, because one, you're not under arrest. They're just conducting, they're just gathering information. They're just conducting an investigation. So it doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to be arrested. But let's be honest. If you give the wrong answers to those questions, they're going to fucking arrest you.
All right, so hold on, because I want to dig deep a little bit into this. So if you tell them, "Here's my stuff. I don't want to answer any of your questions. I don't know why you pulled me over," right? Based on what you're saying, that these are the questions that they're trying to conduct the investigation. Is it automatic that you have to get arrested? Because you're going to basically say, "I don't want to take the breathalyzer or the
Right.
sobriety exam."
They're going to arrest you.
Right.
I mean, just they're going
So
to.
does it
If
make
they
it easier for
believe-
your case when I didn't give them nothing to build it for me against them versus me fumbling through those answers and crashing and burning the fucking
Right.
the breathalyzer?
So-
and I mean, I've tried to touch my nose normally.
Yeah.
That shit, you'd be lucky if you hit it three times in a row.
And that's not even a standardized test. Like, you're supposed to be given the standardized field sobriety test. And when we say standardized, what we mean is these tests have been clinically studied to be somehow correlated to a particular blood alcohol content.
Got
based
you.
on
See? Yes, I like
your
this.
based on your performance and the clues that you give that are observed by an officer. So if you're standing on one foot, like if you put your foot down, or if you hop, or if you pull your arms out, higher than 6 inches, that's a clue that an officer is going to be writing down based on your performance of that. Does that necessarily mean, you're a 0.11? Maybe you just have bad knees. Maybe you
Bad coordination.
Maybe you're
Maybe you're-
overweight.
right.
Maybe you're
Or maybe you're in shape and those guns are fucking
maybe
big.
you had maybe you had an old sports injury that you're
Got
not
you.
remembering that
Right.
affects however your stance is. It's really despite the fact that they're standardized, like they're standardized because they're being tested on physically fit people. Most of the time they're going to be police officers themselves.
Right, so that guy's like focused as shit.
Yeah. So
The fact of him failing that exam is probably,
So-
yeah, right. I got you. That's interesting.
if you were pulled over and you have been drinking and they start going through the motions with you, don't take any of their standardized field sobriety tests. You can tell them, "I will not take any of your standardized field sobriety tests. I won't take any of your field sobriety tests. If you are going to arrest me, I will choose my chemical test." So either a breath test or a blood test. Sometimes a urine test, but most of the time, unless they think you're on drugs, they're not going to give you a urine test.
Out of those two, which one is better? Right, because blood is like accurate. So does blood give you a way more?
See, that's what they want you to think.
See, that's what I'm saying. Come
That's
on,
what
girl.
they want you to think.
Let's do this.
So a blood test is probably what I would choose.
Facts.
To try to fight.
Uh-huh.
You can if you have certain medical conditions, maybe a breath test might be more appropriate for you. But I've found that in my practice, I've had more success with high blood tests than I have with high breath tests.
Right. That's what I would think. Because that shit, you're going to automatically feel. I feel like that breathalyzer, especially for me being a bartender, if you just left the bar and you had a drink, your mouth is going to be robust. Right?
Yes.
Versus, and I think that's how
they use that against you because they say, oh, they had a very strong odor of alcoholic beverage on their breath.
I just had one shot before I left, but now my car smells like liquor, and you're automatically assuming that I boozed it up.
Yeah.
Or even
the
two.
whole night.
Because I even find it as a slippery slope. In my opinion, how can you say 0.08 is good? So 0.08 means a shot, a beer, a glass of wine. I feel like that's just a slippery slope because they could literally still arrest you if you're 0.8, which means I still got to go through the whole fucking motions, which technically, if the DA wants to fuck with you, they could still press you under influence. So I feel like it's fucked up. They should just say no drinking, period. I feel like it's a slippery slope because motherfuckers think they're good at math. They say, well, it's been 5 hours. I've had 10 drinks. I'm only at 2. My body weight index is 107. All of a sudden, they think the scientists, listen, bro, you're going to lose 100 out of 100 times, in my opinion. Yeah. Especially if they already, like, in my mind, if he sees you swerving or anything wrong, he's committed that you're drunk.
Yeah.
It does, he's not.
Well, that's the first thing on his mind, especially if it's at night.
Right. Oh, facts. If it's a daytime thing, maybe you might be off the hook a little bit. Listen, if it's 1 a.m., you're fucked. If it's 2 a.m., you're fucked. No one's swerving on the road. There's nobody out there. Right. No one wants to hear if it's dark or not. But I think, like I said, I think it's almost entrapment. Because now you're giving me all this stuff, right? So you can say, okay, 0.08, beer, wine, liquor. If you're over 200 pounds, you 5 drinks in your system, you digest 1 an hour. No, I'm like, that's a lot of stuff.
But it's certainly dependent on a number of other factors. It's dependent on your body temperature. It's dependent on your water to alcohol ratio in your blood, which is called the Rho factor. So there's so many different things that affect your BAC. Now, honestly, I think some people don't realize how drunk they really are.
Facts.
And how low their BAC actually is sometimes. Like, I think, my roommate is super lightweight. She drinks 3-4 beers.
It's over. It's like Tabitha. Wow, for such a tall girl, I'm surprised. Because racing, and again, I think I'm some scientist guy. I'm like, exactly. I'm out on a date with your roommate. I'm like, don't worry, girl, you're over 6 feet. We can just drink 10 and you get behind the wheel. I'm going to have 40. You're going to drive us back home, right? But if I look at a girl like Tabitha, I'm like, nah, she's a weak. Yeah. But I've seen girls like Tabitha have more, right? And and you're kind of a shorter girl, so I've seen you put it away. So that's what I'm saying. Like, this is such a weird thing to try to leave it to the Joe to combat a police officer who, like you said, is trained to not only smell you, see you, watch you, move you. Yep. You're gonna feel. I don't even think that there's a way to. I think I had a sobriety test once. I've actually had 2. No, one. And it was the follow my eye shit.
That's the nystagmus is HGN.
Okay, so
gaze nystagmus.
Before I tell about the story, what are they looking for in this exam?
So they're supposed to hold the stimulus at least 12 to 15 inches away from your eyes, and they're supposed to track your eyes. So your eyes are supposed to follow the object, and they want you to hold it for a couple of seconds and then come back, go like this. And what they're looking for is your eyeball is, okay, so like when you roll marble over glass, it's real smooth. That's what your eyeballs are doing. Like when you're sober, your eyeballs are smooth. It's a smooth track. When you roll that marble over sandpaper, it kind of jerks, and so your eyes like shake. And there are certain times where I have drank so much I can feel it. I can feel it in my eyes. Yeah.
Wow.
And what that is supposed to indicate is it's supposed to indicate, depending on where the shaking begins in terms of angles, is supposed to say, okay, you're above a 0.10. It's correlated to more than a 0.10
Now I can actually get the fuck out the car, sir, and I need to perform more tests, basically, right? Because when I did it, so before I do that, I gotta put a shout out to Uncle Salty, who's a regular on the show. Brandon, you're full of shit. You know nothing. It has nothing to do with fucking. Because he said when you look, is that they want to see your the blood vessels within your eye.
No.
Right. Thank you.
No.
Pro. See, I got a pro.
It's the shaking.
Thank you.
It's the movement of the eye, the rapid movement of the eye that it can't track smoothly. It's a jerky movement across.
Got it. So you heard that?
Plane.
It's a jerky movement, bro. So this is what I want to say. I took this test and I think I was like beyond highly alert because he said, move your eyes, not your head.
Not your head.
When I was about to get to that part, my brain automatically said, don't move your head because I forgot. If I was drunk, I would have been like, pow.
Yeah.
But I was sober enough that even as I was moving it, I didn't even have to jerk it. My eye kept going.
Yeah.
And like you said, there was a smoothness. He said, boom, boom. I wasn't drunk,
yeah.
but it was a checkpoint. And that was like the beginning of him. And I passed it with flying colors, but I didn't know what they were looking for. Yeah. And obviously, like I said, see, this is the problem with people. They think they know shit.
They don't know. They don't know what they're looking for. If you don't know what the officer's looking for, you're going to give them
everything.
Yeah, everything. They'll say, oh, and this 9 times out of 10 in the police report, this is what comes out. When was the last time you had a drink? Oh, I finished my last drink 2.5 hours ago. Bitch, guess what? Now you are in a plateau because that's bad. If they're going to take you down to the hospital to get a blood test, that's going to take them another half hour. So now it's easier for me as your defense attorney to say, if you just get in your car and you're driving and you get pulled over and that officer asks you, when was the last time you had a drink? If you say, as soon as I got in the car, I just finished my drink right before I left. That gives me a defense because now I say, look, if he had his last drink 5 minutes before the officer saw him, he is still rising. So his blood alcohol has yet to spike. If you're telling them, oh, I drank a long time ago, well, now
you should be good now.
No, you shouldn't be good now. Like if you're super high, then that means you were even higher at the time you were driving. So if you're shooting yourself in the foot by not telling them, hey, I just had a drink.
Shit.
Because you haven't fully absorbed the alcohol yet. Gotcha. It takes at least 25 minutes to an hour to fully absorb whatever drink you're drinking. So
basically when those motherfucking lights come on and you've been drinking, just take the L. Right? Well, no, because it's not... You don't think so? Tell me. I mean, because it almost seems like... Fuck that. If I know...
Okay, first of all, don't fucking drink and drive. How about that?
Facts. I agree with that 100%. Yes, thank you, by the way. Thank you for clearing that up because I agree with that.
That's the first thing I'm going to tell you.
We're going to make sure that this episode is sponsored by Don't Drink and Drive. Don't operate heavy machinery under booze. I totally agree. But if you thought that you were trying to stay under the 0.8 shit and you were there for 2 hours and you had 2 drinks, which is not the same than drinking and driving, you're supposed to be cleared by that. Right, if you're
if you have 2 drinks, if you have 2 16-ounce drinks, because remember the standard for a drink is a 12-ounce,
and that's a pint. No,
a 12 ounce is less than a pint. A pint is 16 ounces.
Okay, cool. So 12 is less. So see already you're getting fucked them up.
Yeah, if you're coming from a brewery,
you're done.
9 times out of 10, those are elevated ABVs that you're drinking.
So it's like you have
especially if you get the double IPA.
Facts.
You know?
Listen, that's the only reason I forgot to tell you. That's the only reason why I drink IPA. I'm like 10 point something. I'll take 2 of those. I'm gonna be smacked. It's gonna be great.
Yeah, exactly.
But agreed, it's not like a Coors Light. Let's say.
Right. So if you have 2 standard drinks at a bar, you eat some food, you get in your car, you should be fine. There should be no problems. But if you are don't drink and drive, but if you do, call me.
Facts. We're going to be putting out all your fucking contacts. We're about to blow this shit up. I'm about to get the firm in the building.
Yeah. So, I mean, don't take field sobriety tests. You are not legally obligated to do those on the side of the road.
Which sounds dangerous as fuck to me, by the way, too, on the side of the road. It's like, bro, can we get off an exit? That's another thing, too. Where has the thing been? And I'll get right back to that. Where let's get off the highway, let's park, and then you got me all day. I'm not gonna go anywhere. You're right behind me. It's not like I'm gonna try to get into a chase. To do a sobriety or any of that shit on the side of the road in the dark, come on, bro.
Yeah, I have fun with that on cross-examination in front of a jury. But I mean, because they're like, oh yeah, you know, I conduct these all the time on the side of the road. Like, really?
Right.
Have you ever have you ever done a field sobriety test on the side of a road like that? Because as cops, they go to the academy, they do these wet labs. So they actually
What's a wet lab?
So wet lab is they'll dose you, they'll have you drink some, and then they'll have their buddies perform the field sobriety tests on them to determine how they're doing. It's in like a conference room. It's in a hotel.
Right. It's not the same. There's not cigarettes. There's not women. There's not there's not other people.
It's not traffic coming in and out. You're not on the side of a freeway.
That too. Right.
You know, there's a lot of factors that I think people don't understand when, I mean, you're nervous as shit. Like, I see a cop when I'm driving, I'm still nervous. I'm 40 years old, you know?
I could not have no weight on me. I could be sober as fucking fuck. It could be like 8 o'clock. I could be headed to the grocery store to buy fucking, I don't know, milk for the kids, and I'm losing my mind. I'm like,
behind you, you're like 10 and 2.
Right, you're checking the seatbelt. There's something about them, and I want to get into this segueing because, you know, we have an opportunity to get at the lawyer, but the fear that you have for them, it's so bad. It's worse than being, I would elevate it to the point, it's worse than being afraid of your mother as a child or being sent to the principal's office. It's higher than that.
I would argue that I'm so fearful of my mom that's why I'm scared of the cops, because once the cops are done with me, I'm so dead they're going to have to bury me twice because then my mom's going to take a shot at me. Like, what the fuck? That's, you know, coming from a Mexican family, like you're done, son.
That's the only person. I mean, the principal probably could have been lower because I'm like, fuck you, guy.
Dude, I got caught in high school smoking weed at a debate tournament in Fresno, at an out-of-town tournament.
But it's California, though, so that's
the principal.
Right.
I had no problem with the principal. It was my mom. Like, I didn't give a shit what the principal said. If I was going to be
drowning this guy out. So you say you did a family. Actually, let me see where I want to go. Okay, we'll stay with that. You did the family law. You did DUI law, and then now you're doing you're representing the liquor people.
So the TY from DUIs, I went was with my boss at our little DUI defense boutique for about 4 years.
Out of curiosity, over 80% wins where you was at, or like less charges? I don't even know how that works. How do you calculate? How do you calculate the rate? You know, if I had to pick you in fantasy, what round would I take you in? Are you a first rounder?
I was doing about 75%. I had 75% wins
in
trials, in jury trials.
So you're definitely a starting quarterback.
In court trials, my stats were
higher.
Much higher.
Right.
And the reason being was because what we would do in order to save a license. So when you get a DUI, there's 2 separate actions that are triggered from the arrest. There's obviously the court portion where you go before a judge, and then there's the DMV portion. The DMV portion is essentially an action against your driver's license itself. So what the DMV has to prove is, 1, the cop had a reason to pull you over and to believe that you were under the influence, that you were legally arrested, and that you had a .08 or higher. If those 3 things can be established, then the DMV is going to suspend your driver's license for 4 months, period. No questions asked. Now, it's a little bit different because it's no longer beyond a reasonable doubt, which is what your standard is in criminal court. Because this is a civil action, it's not a penalty. It is a civil action taken in the name of public safety, according to the Department of Motor Vehicles. So the Department of Motor Vehicles essentially determines you're a threat to society, and so as a result, we're going to take away your license for a period of 4 months, and then you can get it back once you
complete whatever the fuck you want to
get an SR22, so your insurance is going to go up, and maybe now you got to take a DUI class, which is like a 12-week class.
Depending on your blood alcohol. If you're over 2, it's longer. If you're over
0.2, it's a 9 month.
Like I prepared a little bit for this.
Good for you. Good for you. Yeah, and then for your second DUI, it's an 18-month class.
Right, which sucks. That's got to suck, like the 18-month commitment. So I'm sorry. So you got this. The 2 things are happening to you. You're getting you're the 75% guy.
So the reason why, so what would happen is we would lose the DMV hearings, and then the client obviously didn't want to appeal the DMV hearing, which is much more money. We appeal that to an actual court. So rather than do that, if their driving pattern was decent, you know, they were cooperative with the officer, if they had a relatively low BA, so anything like a 0.11 or lower, then what we would ask the DA would be, okay, hey, look, let's give this guy wet reckless. But in addition to the wet reckless, in order for him to get his license back, because DMV has already suspended it, we need, the only thing that can undo a DMV suspension is a not guilty verdict on the .08 count. So Vehicle Code Section 23152B says it is unlawful for any person to drive with a blood alcohol level of 0.08% or higher. That's what it says. When that charge is added to the doc and, now you go to court, you go to a jury trial, they got to find you not guilty. But here's the thing. It says a not guilty verdict. It doesn't say it has to come from a jury. If I get that from a court or get that from a judge, that's good enough to undo the DMV suspension. So we would essentially plead our guy down, but go to a court trial on the B count, and the judge would have no other choice but to find our client not guilty because the DA just wouldn't provide any evidence. Because, again, beyond a reasonable doubt, if the DA does not provide any evidence to the court to show that he was a 0.08 or higher, then the court has no authority other than to say, Mr. Smith,
So-and-so,
you're not guilty. So then we would get an official court record from the court saying, here's the not guilty verdict, send it up to Sacramento DMV, and then DMV would undo that suspension.
And then you get your driver's license without the SR22, or still you got to do the SR22 regardless?
No, because a wet reckless doesn't trigger that SR22 requirement.
You have to be guilty under
either the A count, which is just driving under the influence, or the B count, which is the 0.08.
Wow. Man, there's so much. I want to say some
and now
of this
there's
juicy
a D
shit.
count. Now there's a D count for marijuana.
I love it. Well, that was another thing too. I think that what slowed a lot of people down trying to legalize marijuana recreationally was the fact that they didn't know how they were going to test, how they were going to charge you, what they were going to charge you. So I think a lot of cities, especially in California, dragged their feet a little bit because they couldn't really nail that down. But I'm assuming they got that shit not dialed, but a little bit better than what it initially was, because vehicular manslaughter went up in Colorado as they legalized recreational marijuana. So I found those two correlations funny.
There might be a correlation. I don't necessarily think it's causation because not everybody is stoned as they're driving. So
Facts.
we know for a fact that the metabolite for marijuana stays in your system for a lot longer than alcohol does, but it breaks it down. So you have to be testing for a specific amount. And I've been out of the game for a little while, so forgive me that I don't remember if it's Delta 9 or hydroxy 11.
Jesus,
One of them is the active metabolite and the inactive metabolite. So if they test the blood and there's a lot of the carboxy 9 or carboxy 11, I don't remember the difference. I think it's Delta 9 and carboxy 11. I think that's what it is. But I don't remember which one is which.
I got you. No, listen, the fact that you remember both of those words is amazing as a pothead or a recreational smoker.
I had to.
Right. No, I get it.
But
you're a lawyer. We get it.
So depending on which one it shows more of is gonna determine, okay, it's just in your system or were you really actually high? Like it's difficult to parse.
So there's a little bit more of a wiggle room when you're trying to create a defense for someone.
Absolutely. Especially if they tell the officer, oh, I haven't smoked since yesterday. Yeah, it's going to be in my system, but I'm not high.
Right.
So.
Right, because it stays into your body 30 days, technically, right?
Well,
right.
It clings to fat cells, so...
Look at you, man. You just like fucking science all day. All right. I wanted to get on something quick because I don't want to take too much of your time, and I want to steal you because I want to be greedy and hang out with you a little bit. So let's bring this into the focus lens of what today is. If you are being pulled over for anything, what are your rights to tell them, and I don't want to say go fuck off, but to protect you? For example, I just seen a dude get pulled out of a Lyft car in Atlanta and get his ass whooped to a whole nother level. So I think that, it might be easy for a lighter skinned person, let's just say that, to say, hey, buddy, I'm not answering any of these fucking questions. Right. I'm going in versus some of this other stuff. So you're not guilty. There's no booze. How much of the stuff can you tell them? I don't want to talk to you.
Well, I mean, it really just kind of depends on, it's obviously going to depend on your view of the police. It's going to depend on your previous experience with police. It's really going to color how you're going to be with them. Right. I mean, I've found, I don't hate cops. I understand they have a hard job to do. But as a defense attorney, my experience it has been my experience that they will just lie about the littlest things about pulling people over in order to salvage their case. And I don't respect that. I don't
agree.
respect that at all. So if they're going to lie about little shit, they're probably lying about bigger shit.
Facts.
But if you get pulled over, the first thing you want to do is you want to be polite and do what they say. You should probably have your license ready so you're not reaching for anything when they get there. So if you don't have a license... Because
there's no way he's not going to ask you for it, basically,
absolutely,
right? Especially if you're in a vehicle.
Get it ready.
Yeah.
Get it ready. Pull it out of your wallet before he walks up, because as soon as he walks up to that window, your hands should be on the steering wheel with the license in hand. If he asks you for insurance, officer, it's in my phone or it's in my glove box or whatever. Tell him what you're doing before you actually do it. That's probably the safest way to handle it these days. They're going to engage in a conversation with you. They want to smell you. They want to feel you out. They want to observe everything that they can about you in order to figure out whether or not they're going to haul you in. So be polite. Do what they ask. If they start asking questions, sober or not, you don't have to answer their questions. If you're sober, fucking answer the questions. If you have been drinking, you can be evasive, but don't lie to them. Because if you are visually impaired, if they see you're probably fucked up, they're going to pull you out of the car anyway. So don't be a dick. Just, officer, I don't want to answer any questions. Why don't you want to answer any of my questions? Because that's what he's going to do. He's going to be your friend. Why don't you want to answer any of my questions? Let's have a conversation, pal. What's going on? Why don't you want to answer my question? And they lure you into, hey, we're friends, we're buddies. We can talk about
great
this.
Psychology on their behalf.
They're trained in verbal judo.
For sure.
They should probably be taking more sensitivity training,
Facts.
but they're trained in verbal judo, and
because they taught them how to basically have people fuck themselves up or incriminate themselves.
Yeah, you catch more flies with honey.
Facts.
That's just if you are a dick to whoever you're talking to, and most of the times, my clients will tell me, yeah, they're really nice. I've had a lot of people tell me, even black guys, yeah, they were really super nice, but it's because I was respectful and
I think for the most part, because I'm from Bronx, New York, and I've had a lot of encounters. I think if you come off with the strong pimp hand of kindness, not that they respect it, but they handle you a little different. Because I think they understand, and I'm not going to go on a limb here and say that they're all like power junkies, but it kind of helps. Like, they kind of like, okay, this person's responsive into the way that I want it to be, versus someone who's like not trying to cooperate. And then that shit,
yeah.
I don't know what happens to their brain. They just go off the fucking rails,
right.
And then they start some of the more fringe and extreme situations. Because for the most part, this is not me picking the police side, but for the most part, I mean, I've come into a lot of them. They're not cocksuckers, right? I mean, I feel like in some of these dangerous neighborhoods, they might be worse.
Yeah.
But we live in San Diego.
Sure.
It's not that bad here. I mean, if you get pulled over, I've had a couple of handfuls, and it's just like, look, either we're gonna give you the ticket or whatever. They're not total douches. But obviously, in other states, in other cities, it's a lot harder.
It's a power trip.
Yeah, and and they're sent into the Wild Wild West. I mean, again, like you said, to reiterate it, maybe in San Diego they don't got to be fucking like Wyatt Earp, but in other places they have to be, and so that already sends you in as Action Jackson. So if you get a routine stop, you're already thinking like, I gotta find coke in the car and this and that, and so they're already fucking like, yeah, let's do this shit. Oh, make the bust of a year.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm sure that there are some officers that are like that, and that's unfortunate. Because I don't think that is a profession that evil people should be going into by any means.
Yeah, I'm not crazy about this whole defund the police shit, but this whole thing needs to be looked at. And I was telling somebody this the other day: if you're bad at your job, you get fired or laid off. Mm-hmm. Why are we not firing people? And why are there laws created to protect them?
Because they have a huge police union that is very, very, very powerful. Those police unions are what keep the bad cops able to get hired at other
precincts,
police departments.
Yeah,
even though they have a history of
what X, Y, and Z. Just like homeboy who killed him had like 18 accounts against him, but meanwhile back at the ranch he's still in the field.
So when we would get a client in that would have a tussle with the officer and was like, I was tased, and they did this, they did
Fucking
that,
cocksuckers.
and so we would run a motion. It's called a pitches motion on the officer to find out if he has other complaints in his personnel file.
See, we don't even know about these things
that are related to excessive force. Like that is a discovery tool that we have, and it's used a lot. It's mostly in felonies. It's a lot of times for DUIs we don't they're not necessary.
Right.
But there have been times where that the officer
was excessive in some way,
and it was the same officer in a lot of our different arrests.
Because you guys were doing so many.
Yeah, that there was a pattern with this guy.
Got you.
This is a particular
right. He
guy,
was a hot boy for shit.
and this is how we knew this one cop back in Bakersfield in particular. I'm not going to say his name.
No,
but,
of course not. I would never want to do that to anybody. Even though he's a douche.
He was required to take that verbal judo class because he was roughing up his arrestees so much. And it's like, bro, you need to calm the fuck down. Like, it's just a deuce. He's not a rapist. He's not a murderer. You don't need to fucking slap him around. You don't need to do that.
I'm telling you, I feel like some of these dudes are like action junkie guys. Like, that's part of their day. You know what I mean? We're going to smack some motherfuckers up. We're going to take some people down. It's going to be a normal day.
Yeah.
Have you found, and we'll end out in this, have you found specifically in your practice with the DUI, did you find that younger police officers or less experienced police officers were a little bit easier versus the guys, right? That the guys were in the building for 20 years, right? Absolutely. Like he had more.
Absolutely. You're in the building for 20 years, dude. You're going to know what you're doing, right? So rather than when I would like catch somebody and I was friends with a couple of older CHP guys who have since retired since I've been practicing out there. And they would tell me, because I told them, I was like, dude, I had this dude today on the stand and blah, blah, blah. And he said this. And one of them goes, he looks at me and goes, that was my case. I would have been like, well, in my experience and training and blah, blah, blah. Like, that's what they do. They basically, like, if it's something.
Even in court, they got dope verbal judo.
Yeah. Yeah. In my training and experience, X, Y, and Z would happen if this happened, and it's like, you guys are fucking assholes because you're lying. You're lying. Like, this is something that's not normally happening in a DUI arrest. So,
wow, what a fucking trip, bro.
Yeah.
Well, Diane, I'm so glad that you came out. Yes. I'm super excited. You are definitely. I've been picking people. You are going to be not only our law young lady. We're going to be talking about baseball. We're going to be talking about football. We're going to be going all in. I want to try to get you in as much times as possible. Thank you so much for your time.
Absolutely. Thank you for inviting me. It was a lot of fun.
For sure. So everybody, you guys stay safe, and hopefully some of this stuff helped you out. If we're going to put all the links to Diane's stuff if you guys hear the episode and need any kind of legal advice.
Yeah, we'll drop some plugs. I'll drop my Twitter handle and
because she is the firm, baby. Now let's go.
Diane Medina Law. Here we go.
Nice.